I find myself wanting to have that song playing in the background during the days I'm working on stuff.
It's great while we're like getting ready to go, getting the vibe going.
I don't know, just need to have like that Euro trance dance mix background music just going throughout the day. So,
well, good morning and welcome to the latest episode of the Project Failure Files, the series for anyone who manages people, projects, or processes for a living. I'm Sharon Weaver, CEO of Smarter Consulting.
And I am Christian Buckley, founder of Collab Talk. And welcome to another episode of our series where Sharon and I explore various management topics from the perspective of what not to do. And each episode, we talk about the common pitfalls, share personal stories and experiences, and explore strategies and best practices to help you to be successful.
In this episode, we are talking about the career track for project managers, what's possible, and really kind of a little bit dabble into management versus independent contributors or individual contributors.
Yeah, that's the kind of the like the path everybody thinks to move up. I must move into management. It's like, my view of this when back early in my career when I was a project manager, I was working with a very senior team over at Cisco. And I met business analysts and project managers where that was their track, never into like that larger management, but was to be focused in those roles. We kind of covered this, if you remember, I think it was episode 37 a few weeks back where we talked about like one facet of that, when leaders make the mistake of thinking a great individual contributor would be automatically a great manager. And as we all know through personal experience, that is definitely not the case.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely had great managers who rose up through the ranks. And I think sometimes when we think about there's the manager and there's the employee, and we don't think about potentially there are people who might have been at one point individual contributors that work their way up, and there's people who come into the management role. But truthfully, the people who kind of come up through the ranks, they have to then grow strengths and learn about leadership development and management and how to better manage people and projects. And on top of that, you have to want to be a manager. You have to be interested in the role to actually be in that role and be successful. And sometimes I see people who kind of come up and they learn that and they really develop strengths around that. And then sometimes I see the direct opposite where somebody kind of goes up the ranks because they think that's the next right thing to do. And they don't really become a great leader, a great manager. And it kind of almost goes the opposite direction.
Yeah, I've had a few managers in my illustrious career who should not have been in charge of babysitting a dog, much less managing a team. Like they were excellent operation managers, like owning a process, owning a line of business, but their bedside manner was left something to be desired. Is a nice way of putting it, I guess. But it's amazing how quickly things can become toxic when the project manager or the team lead or the group manager is not passionate about, people, managing people, inner office relationships like that. Yeah. That should be an indicator. Like maybe you're not cut out for this. We're actually going to get into that topic, I think, in a week or two, where we're going to talk about like toxic managers, but that's not this. This is focused on like the PM role and or that IC role and what is the path there.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, and it's really funny because I've had this conversation with business analysts as well, because a lot of people think that as a business analyst to go up in your career path, you need to become a project manager or you need to become a process manager. And sometimes you're just happy being a BA. And I think this episode is to talk about what career paths best fit a project manager. What are the opportunities? But once again, I want to, kind of add at the beginning of this that if you're a project manager and you're happy in the project management role and you have no desire to move up, we're not telling you have to. We're just saying, hey, here's the opportunities and don't feel like you have to be stuck. Make sure that you understand what that path looks like so that if you do want to move up or out, you know what those are.
Yeah, there's a lot to dig into here. I think this may be one of those episodes, Sharon, where we realize, hey, there's a couple other future episodes out of this discussion. So I've got my little notepad. I've got it ready to write them down as we come up with them in real
Little like
time here.
idea fruits that come off the shoot.
Idea fruits, pick and pluck them off the tree. As with every episode, feel free to comment throughout the episode and share your experiences and any great examples or feedback that we may have missed. So please do that. Oh, the other thing I want to start doing at the beginning of these too is that I'll show it up on screen. Like, please also go to the website at Project Failure Files. I don't know what, like, I've got the dry mouth, and why am I like, I've got marbles in my mouth, but it's actually dry. But go to projectfailurefiles.com and sign up for the newsletter. And so this is something where you'll get emails of what episode you just missed, with some of our working notes around that, and the summary that I post every Tuesday. So you get that email, as well as what are the upcoming topics for the next couple of weeks, so that you're aware if you want to catch those episodes. And then, of course, we will have a paid newsletter version that's coming out soon that will give you more content and trainings and other things. So there's a lot of stuff that's in the works. And of course, there is still, my fingers are crossed under the desk here, but the book later this year as well. So I know, because in our copious free time, we're also writing a book. So
what's really funny is this started as the book, and now we put so much more effort into the show, which honestly is a great thing. A lot of people really get a lot of value out of it.
Yeah. No, I've been enjoying doing that. And thank you for those that commenting out, whether it's on YouTube or haven't really seen much on the Facebook. I think there's quite a few people that are spending less time on Facebook, but YouTube and LinkedIn and answering the questions. So please comment, and we will follow up as soon as we're done with the show. We're looking at that stuff. We're commenting when I see stuff pop up during the week. So, yeah. So anyway, yeah, we love those conversations.
Okay. So let's get started with some definitions.
Yeah. So I guess it's like why do some project managers feel stuck? Why does it feel like it's a career plateau? And I'll just say that, so what does that actually mean? It's like, so I'm in this role because we've both done exactly this. I was in that role. I thought my only way to move up would be to then become like a team lead, managing other project managers and doing that. The route, what I found was that there was a lack of ownership around tools and processes. And so I'm a very entrepreneurial person, just like you are, Sharon. And so I started thinking, like, where's the opportunity? Where can I help the most? Instead of waiting for my manager to move on to another role or them to expand team and to build something new, like waiting to move up into these other things and have different learnings, I went and pursued something that I was passionate about. I got into more of the tooling side. I'd even call it like the DevOps side of the house, managing the tools and systems and collaboration, which is how I got into the information management space and collaboration technology and DevOps space, code management, like source management. All of that because I was wanting to build out that career and not just do just the PM function. And I found other opportunities where I had stronger skills in. So a lot of project managers, they are great at that execution, but again, figuring out, is it the right move to transition into a leadership role, or what? Like, I don't know. I look at it as something like it's defined in some companies, and the answer may be like if that's how it's defined in this company, maybe this is not the right place for me for that next step. I know.
Oh, what a crazy idea. No, I am. Well, and I kind of came the opposite route. I came up through the tech, right? So I had been heavily in tech for many years, and I worked in software development, and I worked and I was an independent contributor on the dev side. And the funny part is that they realized real quickly that I could communicate. I'm not trying to I'm not like putting people down, but like they just, every place I went, they're like, wait, you can talk to developers and you understand what they're saying and you can like actually like communicate. I'm like, yeah. And so what ended up happening is really mine was the opposite, is that I really wanted to be in technology. But when my managers figured out that I was capable of communicating and coordinating and collaborating and documenting and they could put me in front of managers and feel pretty confident that I could share that information. I started really being groomed at a career level to take over at first business analysis work and then eventually project management work. And by the time I was kind of going up my career, I was really just doing it because I understood the tech stack and I understood the communication, and I was kind of having other people come behind me and saying, this would be a good fit for you. This would be a good fit for you. But when I did, kind of like you, I kind of got stuck in a PM kind of level. And what I was doing at that point was I was just managing more and more and more projects. So it kind of stepped into that kind of what some people might think is more of a practice manager or portfolio manager kind of role, where I just had like 30 to 50 projects happening at any given time and a lot of indirect reports and a lot of, I kind of became the hub for a lot of this. But I was kind of, my eye on the prize is like, what's next? And to your point, luckily, when I was in that role, I was in a very large organization. So I could see other roles and I could see what was going on. And I'm like, okay, well, I kind of like that role and I kind of like that role and they're higher than where I'm at. And so I started looking towards leaders and managers and the Six Sigma group. And I started kind of asking them like, what could I do that's different? Where can I go that's different? But I do see people who come up through the same route that I did that oftentimes are like, oh no, I could never go talk to that person, or I could never be in that role, or my company, like you said, my company doesn't have a role that would be a good fit for me to move up in. And so they end up just kind of doing the same thing day after day after day after day after day and never really thinking that they can get out of that role.
Yeah. It was, again, I go back to this project that I was working on. So I was in that PM. I think I moved into a product management role. So again, where my career tried, I had to leave this company where I had a great opportunity. They wanted to move me out of state, move me down to Texas. There's a longer story behind that. Like 3 times companies that get through acquisitions, like my job moved to Texas instead of moving with it. I left the company, went elsewhere. And now what am I doing? I'm getting ready to move to Texas. But anyway, later in life. But it was, the timing, it all made sense because my wife and my kids didn't want to move away from family in California. And now that we're moving to our 4th state, like as empty nesters, it's less of an issue. But that experience of working with the senior PM and BA roles it was over at Cisco, where I was talking to this gentleman. So I was in my early 30s, talking with early 30s. I was 31, talking with
very early 30s
to this PM, this gentleman who was my primary contact, who was in his late 50s and in his entire career almost entirely as an IC, but was a very senior person. And it's almost like Microsoft went and developed something very similar, where they used to have this model where to move up, to progress, even to stay at the company, like you had to be moving forward. If you weren't growing and moving forward, it was looked at very negatively. Like you're not trying to expand, not taking on more. And but there's fewer and fewer opportunities as you move up in that model. Yep. And so they realized we're losing a lot of good people that just are happy in their jobs. And so they actually went in and developed this, what they call now the technical fellow route, which is like a VP level. So there's a technical IC route all the way up to the top of that, so that they're not losing good people. But it's the way you described it, what you talked about. There's kind of 3 different things. One, there's your own personal strategic career planning. That's essential. 2, there's what your role, your manager, like what it the expectations are, what the path is that's defined. And then 3, there's being aware of industry-wide, the other things going on. So do you have an idea? Does your manager have an idea? Does the world have an idea of what you can do with these skills? And the hard part of all this is there's no set path. You need to figure that out and have those conversations. But again, it comes back to that path where if you don't like the people management side and dealing with the bureaucracy, dealing with the politics of all that, depending on your organization, like I figured out as a frontline manager, and then as a manager of managers and building bigger, it's like I wanted to be left alone. I love the people side. I love the relationship side of that. I came from that as a business analyst and project manager, but I hated the politics of that stuff. I just wanted to say, like, look, I can manage my budget. Give me these pieces. Leave me alone. I don't want the rest of this. And so there was a struggle at a couple different companies with doing that. So that's why we've talked about a lot. Like the magic number, this has been my experience, is like 5 to 7 direct reports should be the max that you do. Because honestly, then you can have a strong relationship with that. But that's possibly another topic, like the magic number for management.
I feel like a little idea fruit just fell on the counter.
Number.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of this, I love the little nugget that you just brought up. You have to take accountability for what you want. And this was something that really probably took me a long time to kind of wrap my head around, was that, there are multiple opportunities. I think some places make you feel like you have to continue to move up. Some places make you feel like you're not allowed to move up. And right. I think at the end of the day, you have to decide what's right for you. Are you happy doing what you're doing and you just want to be a better version of the role you're in? Or do you want to move into a different role or move up into a more executive level role? And no matter what you're doing, you have to understand you do need to keep moving forward as, a contributor in whatever you're doing, but which route do you want to take? And then are you on the right path to get there?
Yeah. I love this phrase. I heard it again and again. The gentleman who hired me at Microsoft, Dave Walsh, great guy. I think he's retired now. I can say his name out there anyway. So awesome over there. So he was my skip level there. But he said, had kind of a conversation around this. And he said, I said, ultimately, like, you own your career, you drive your career. And so you have to think about this too, is like again, there may be limitations. I hired a PM, brought him in. And I said, look, he really wanted to work at the company. It was a perfect role for me experience. I said, you're coming in right at the top. Just realize that there's no upward mobility for you in this role if you were to take it. Like, I would love to bring you in. I want you to be here at least 2 to 3 years before you start looking internally for other roles. But that means that you're capped. Like, you're not going to get like the bonus and stuff, but there's going to be no increase around because you're at the top of this thing. And he did that, and he stuck around in that time, and he did very well. I believe he's still there, but at the company, but in different roles before he moved. But he did what he said there. But yeah, there can be this risk of stagnation. It's depending on the organization and the opportunities that are there. But if you're responsible for your career, you are looking around. Like, I knew what skills that I lacked and what I need to do. That was from looking at my peers, looking at the projects, looking at what's possible there. I knew that there was no upward mobility in some of the roles or other opportunities that I would change the role. I like what I'm doing. I want to stay here, so I'm not going to pursue that, but I can do more technical skills. But then looking career-wise, looking out there in the world of the various other opportunities, that's where I then put a plan together, going back to the phone company with my manager, and said, this is what I want to do ultimately. What else could I take on? What other different projects that can take me and broaden my skills while I remain in this role? So I know there's no path upwards in this place. What else can I go and do? And so taking on different projects, taking the lead on new initiatives, different internal relationships, mixing it up, swapping projects with other PMs, of course, with the manager's approval, so that you have build different relationships internally. Mm-hmm. I mean, all of these kinds of things are you taking control of the direction of your career with these skills? But that's, I did, when I did my MBA. So my MBA is in technology management. It's essentially a project management master's degree. And every project, everything, it was, every week it was, I'm writing an individual paper, I'm doing a group paper or project. And then I was applying it to all of my work related things. And it just was, you get roles, you get functions, you get templates for writing the papers and all these things down. It was just like project management, 101, going and doing the blocking and tackling around a project again and again and again for 3 years, doing night school. But it was excellent. But it really gave me that foundation for the broader business activities. It allowed me to explore. This is true for, again, project management, budgets, risk management, the stakeholder engagement, the governance, the cross-functional leadership across all those pieces, all part of it. Problem solving, negotiation, all of those kinds of things that executives love to see that. And so it's all, transferable skills that you develop in these roles. So if you feel like, hey, I'm getting stuck in this rut of doing this thing, in that role, there's much more that you can do. You often just need to go have the conversations with the manager and say, look, I want to do that. I want to stay here and provide value as long as possible, but here's the path. This is where I see myself in 5 years, 3 years, 5 years. How can I get the most out of this role, providing that to you, to provide it to the company, but stay on my path?
Yeah, I think it gives you an opportunity to showcase what you can do, and at the same time as learning about all these opportunities and skill sets. And I think, often what I found at that level was that executive leadership was watching. They were watching projects. They were watching the managers. They were watching, the upcoming leaders to say, okay, are you somebody that just sits in your cube and fills out a spreadsheet and that's all you do?
Are you a
Or are
ticket
you
taker?
somebody
Right.
Yeah, are you a ticket taker?
Yeah.
Are you,
not to beat up on people that are taking tickets? That's part of like operates. Like, I get it. It's not a negative, but it's just the idea that here's the things to go and do. I'll go and fulfill all these things and done. All right. What do you need me to do next? Versus proactively being aware of this. Hey, this needs to be done. Nobody asked me. I'm going to go and do these pieces.
Well, and also, are you rallying your team? Are you championing your team? Are you driving for something within the organization that's outside of the scope of your, day-to-day tasks? Are you doing the bare minimum of what's on your task board and very, very little else? And once again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but, are you doing the things that you have to do as an independent contributor, or are you over here now looking at what else can I do? What else can I give back to the organization? Because at the end of the day, those leaders are watching for those skill sets so that they can nurture that into the organization. And I think as a PM, it gives you visibility into the organization, like you were saying, with the opportunity to see budgets and risk management and cross-functional engagement and things like that. I remember the first time that I was responsible for a project that included stakeholders from all of the different business areas, and we had 5 separate buildings, so 5 separate physical locations. Those people all had to come into the main headquarter building. I had to coordinate all of these leaders. I had to work with them. And I realized, I'm like, oh, wow, this is a whole nother level of project management outside of the things that I'm doing. So I think it does give you exposure to skill sets, but it also gives you a lot of visibility and leadership, a lot of visibility to you as a growing and emerging leader. And what are you doing with that opportunity?
Yeah. Well, and we're kind of a side topic here, like succession planning. It's in our roadmap. We are going to be talking about it, I think, later this year. I don't know the date of that one. So that is something that we're specifically going to plan around. But it's, again, to be introspective, to go back through and to be self-aware of, here are my skills. Here's where I need to go and strengthen these things. We often talk about, optimizing the process and continual improvement that we have. Kaizen, is the Japanese word for that. But we talk about that all the time. And operations, kind of a view of the world, there's always optimization because there's always degradation that happens. Degradation in the meta description of that, there's always new requirements coming in. The business needs changing. The personnel needs change, like constantly. All these different factors. You can be perfect. It won't stay perfect for more than a couple seconds because then all of these things happen and bring it down.
So everything changes.
There's, as always, do the hand motion for it. So there's opportunity, around every corner to go and work on something. But part of that is, opportunities for yourself. Do you have that deep technical expertise for that role? What can you learn? What can you take away from that? Are you missing any key leadership skills and development? This is also something like going and taking classes and having, like you brought up earlier, coaching, mentoring, having mentors that are out there. For example, for anybody's interested, both Sharon and I do one-on-one coaching, paid coaching. So I always there's a couple of people that I work with that I do that I know well, that I provide that for free, but we're available for paid coaching of those kinds of things as well. So reach out to us if you're interested.
I always have at least one paid coach that I'm working with, guys. Yeah. So and here's the thing, I was actually just explaining this to somebody this weekend. I was telling them that I think it's really important that you always have somebody that is coaching you, that is paid, that you're focusing on one area that you're trying to improve within yourself. Because if you are not, you're losing that window of time. And it doesn't have to be big. It's this whole idea of, continuous development and integrated learning and things like that. I think you have to always have somebody who's just helping you with one area of your life and making that a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And it's going to make you, it's going to be able to take advantage of those opportunities as they come along.
Yeah. Well, that's the same as doing, if you're investing, you're actually investing dollars in certifications. So yes. Certainly before we were doing this recording, Sharon and I were talking about, like, I'm prepping for a certification, and I've got some goals this year to get a couple different certifications finished. I used to pay for, when I was running PMOs, project management offices, folks. When I was doing that portfolio view and managing PMs, I would pay for the PMP courseware and the first certification test. If they failed it, I said, you have to pay for the retest, and I won't reimburse you for stuff until you pass. But that's an additional incentive to go and do that. But to go and I did my MBAs, why I never got my PMP certification. I figured I paid a heck of a lot more money and went to school longer and I've got to copy the PM box. I'm good. But again, there's certifications. Sharon, you've got your Six Sigma, there's business analytics, there's technical training, there's all sorts of soft skill things. In fact, it's never been easier to go and, like, I have an ongoing monthly Coursera account where I can take like unlimited classes from all these universities. I've done AI certifications. I've done collaboration technology. I've done soft skill management training things just to keep my mind fresh and focused on and learning, like, what are people still saying? Is this still valid? The learning that I got of my MBA, which was concluded in 1999.
Are you saying that that information may have changed in the time period from then
slightly?
To now?
It's always crazy how much hasn't. I'm still talking about, the IT governance. It's the same stuff that I was preaching in the mid 90s. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I always talk about, like, if I ever won the lottery, like, I would probably go enroll at some university, and I'd just be a full-time student for the rest of my life, just learning stuff, because I just love that.
Yeah, I do think that is something, we are the project failure files. And I want to bring up that one of the things that I have over here in the failure file is this idea of, I went to school, I got a certification, I got a position, and then you think that that's enough for you to do that job for the entirety of the rest of your career, is that you don't need to learn anything new. You don't need to understand anything that's different. You don't need to develop any new skills. I think that, will you continue to have a job? Likely. Will you continue to have a paycheck? Likely. But I mean, if you really want to grow as a person, if you want to grow in your opportunities, if you want to take advantage of things, if maybe you want to get raises, maybe you want to get better projects, maybe you want to work with better organizations, I think the big failure here is to feel like once you've achieved a certain thing that you're just kind of there forever. And there are a lot of people who feel trapped. And then when I ask them, what are you doing in the realm of personal development, they're like, oh, no. I already went to school. I already got my certification. Right. There's nothing else you can do. And I'm like, well, then you're stuck because you're not growing as a person.
Yeah. It's funny how many problems in our life are self-edits. Like, it's our own faults. It's whether for valid reasons or not, people have that, it's really hard to look inward and to really analyze like what's going on with myself. It's easy to look outward at those things. And that's why I think at the core of all this, probably the most important thing you can do, if you're like, what can I do today around this, is go out there and do more networking. And maybe you're already networked out to the hilt, but like user groups out there, online communities, in-person communities around that thing. But I'll tell you why, like I have done little to no marketing of myself and my skills or for my independent company ever. Like I've never paid for paid ads to advertise my business and the skills and things that are out there. Doesn't mean I won't. I've been thinking about doing something to ramp things up, especially a handful of years back. I had 3 employees. I was starting to ramp up. I was like, do I need to move to a full agency and build that out there? And then the pandemic happened and kind of changed the course of things anyway. But going out and doing networking, building relationships beyond the project management community. If you're a PM today, look at crossover areas, have a mentor, reach out to people and say, hey, look, you're a leader that I admire. I've got a connection with you. It's easier when there's some connection in your company or outside the company. Just reach out and say, hey, I don't know if you'd be willing to, like once a month, have like a 30-minute call and go through and talk about stuff and provide some advice, career advice of where things are, so I can kind of emulate some of the successes that you've had. But going out in peer groups and having those conversations and learning from those groups. And I remember I remember that I said this because it's very snarky. I felt a little bit bad afterwards because I know I hurt her feelings, but I had a manager who said, like, you're participating in these community activities. Like, I don't see any benefit for our team, our organization, that I think you should stop doing that. And I said, my response was, I'm not so selfish as to think that my community involvement always has to be that I have to get something out of it. Most of the time, my being there and my experience adds value to other people. I know eventually, and through the connections, and, the relationships, like, I'll get some benefits back out of that, but I'm not doing it just for me. I'm doing it so I can share what I'm learning with others as well. And most of the time it's outward. And then when it happens inward, like it wouldn't have happened otherwise, those opportunities where I've done deals, I've done business deals. I've found out about opportunities through networks. Like Sharon and I, we knew each other through the network, through the community, became friends. And then we started working on stuff together, this content and for her company. So all that is through networking and building relationships. It's the number one thing you can do to progress your career, is get out there and connect with more people.
That Bob Burg has a great book called The Go-Giver. And the idea is really exactly what you just mentioned. It's that, I'm going to go out and I'm going to give. And being a giver in general, will I get back 100%. I believe that, that will happen. But I think by giving out to your network, that definitely creates more opportunity and more connections for you then later. What's really funny is my son is graduating from college, and him and I were just having this conversation the other day. He did a panel with one of the leaders that he admires at another organization. And, he went up and they were like, what questions do you have? And he's like, well, what can I do to take advantage of the connections that I do have in a way that's appropriate? Because I think sometimes one of the things that we say this all the day, Christian, go network, go build these connections. But then I talk to people and they're like, well, I don't want to bother you. I don't want to come in,
What's the worst thing that's going to happen though? If somebody came to you and you're busy, Sharon, what are you going to tell them?
I'm busy.
I can't right now. Yeah, I'm busy. Yeah.
I mean, truthfully. And so the advice that he got back, and then we kind of had a conversation around this, but the advice that he got back is the whole, water your crops, right? Take care, tend your garden, tend your relationships. At the end of the day, I don't think it's inappropriate to reach out and say hi to somebody and say, hey, I'd love to connect. I'd love to network, whatever. But one of the pieces of advice that I thought was really good that he gave him is be constructive, right? When you reach out, what is it that you need? What is it that I can do for you? What is it that you can do for me? Continue to have that relationship, but how can we, and I know one of the things that you have in here from a bullet point is how to network strategically, right? And I think strategic relationships are really important, especially in this globalized connector economy. Is what is it that you want from me? Let me know that so that I know if it's even something that I can help you with. And I'm happy to say yes or no, I can help you with that.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm like that point of networking strategically. It's just made me think of my one of my, I've got 4 kids, 3 are married. So the unmarried son, and just kid who was a, brilliant mind, mathematics, science, he's a hard science kid, got his degree in atmospheric sciences, but in the dating side, he was just shy. He was constantly reading books and doing music and kind of everything else. He's a data scientist now, folks. But he has not been successful on the dating side. I feel bad, both for any young adults in the dating world.
I sure hope he's watching this episode.
No, he'll never watch it. Of course not. I can't because I'm involved. So no, he'll never watch it. No, but with all that is that you're not going to find opportunities if you're not putting yourself out there. It's the same with that strategically networking. If you're not attending conferences, going to user groups, professional groups, leveraging LinkedIn, reaching out, connecting with people, find a way to do it. One of the things that I did was I was good at writing. I hate tests. I excel at the essay, that side of it. And so I can't remember the way my brain works, specific dates around that. I'm the bigger picture. I understand process and the structure, and I get the point. I like that side of things. So how can I leverage my skills at writing? So as I was learning about stuff, I would write about things and then reach out for content and share that and get feedback back and make connections that way. So there's different ways that you can put yourself out there and connect with people. And then have a coach, find a mentor, especially somebody that started in a similar function like Sharon and myself as a project manager, as a technical writer to business analyst to project management. I've been in those roles. Again, not to say a BA is the lower step to PM. It's not.
It was just the BAs that you traveled.
I say BAs are actually a more senior role. That's a different. We are going to actually cover that in another topic as well. But you have to take control of your career progression. You own your growth.
Yes.
You need to define the goals, have those conversations and you may not know what that path looks like. That's why you need to network and talk to people about that. And then, as we always say in technology, pilot, trial that, learn from it. Don't just go and the waterfall method just doesn't work. You need to iterate on your plan forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with your career.
I agree. It's really funny because I run women's retreats at least once a year, and like you mentioned, we do coaching and mentoring. And I think this is the biggest topic that comes up, especially when I work with women. I work a lot with high achieving women, and they struggle because they don't know what's next. And when I tell them it's whatever you want it to be, you don't have to be locked in. Who you have been does not have to be who you are, but it is fundamental and foundational to where you're going. And so I think this is a really, really important nugget to take away, is that you are responsible for deciding, do you want to do the thing you're doing, and do you just want to do it better? Do you want to go into a different role? Or, and I know we said this out loud earlier in this segment, is it time to move to a different organization? I have people who come to me all the time. They're like, oh, I've done all the things. I've learned all the things. I've worked at all the things. I've looked at all the different opportunities. And I just keep hitting my head, and I just keep getting blocked every direction I go. And I'm like, well, maybe this organization's not a good fit for you. And we're like, whoa. I don't know about leaving, but
yeah.
Maybe it is.
It's and that's something too in management, where I've had that conversation dozens of times with the direct report, where I say, it's like, look, this is the scope of this org. Like, I want you to stay as long as you're happy here. I'm very much a thinker, and I would say that, and I know you're this way too, we're more rare in managers that think, I constantly think, is this the right hire for the company? Well, we want to keep this person at the company, whether my team, there's the opportunity here, there's not. If I can't, there's some things that are within my control as a manager, for a project manager, of the people manager, helping this person, new projects, new skills, new customers, like whatever that is, other special projects, initiatives that are cross-functional, whatever those things are, there's a limit to what I can do. Just like in my budget, like I can't increase, you're in your role, your pay anymore. You're at the top of that band. So what I don't want to hang on to somebody and then they become negative and toxic and don't enjoy their work. Like, I don't want that either. And It's better to keep a good person in the company and help them find that next role. Now, I'd say, sadly, not as many managers are good at doing that, to helping their best employees out the door.
Especially project managers. I mean, honestly, I'm going to be really honest here. I'm going to be really, really open and vulnerable with this, but a good project manager is really hard to find. And people who get into those roles, who are really excellent at that role, especially if they want to move into leadership or they want to move into a different role, I promise you that there's a lot of managers who are really the opposite. So project failure files, the biggest failure that I see is good leaders that hold people back because they're a good independent contributor, which I know is a whole nother topic, but you have to stand up for yourself and you have to decide, do I want to move outside this role? Do I want to move into a different place? Do I want to do something different? Because they will aggressively appreciate you probably more than what you want. Well,
but then I've seen it again on the other side. I've seen this with peer managers and with my directors and things that will sabotage those employees' careers to keep them. And I'm like, so they're going to find out what you did. This will not turn out well. Like,
exactly.
Like, that's actually, we are going to talk about that in a week or two, about toxic managers and the problems that happen around that. But to kind of wrap up on this, though, I mean, thinking about long-term benefits of being career minded, not job. That's what you have today, but your career looking out there. Because I've had some people that said, like, well, you've jumped around with like different titles and stuff. Like, no, if you go look at the body of work, and I'm learning new skills, I'm developing and moving forward, including my, entrepreneurial endeavors, starting companies while going to school nights and weekends while I was working on my master's, and we started a software company in the middle of that, which while I had my day job and switched companies and had two kids born while that company was in startup mode and trying to raise millions of dollars. And and then selling that company, like all of that effort, all of that prepared me then for the roles that I took on later as a consultant, as an employee in other roles. But I always had that career. You own your career, you drive your career. And so get the most, milk that role that you're in today for as much as possible, and then pivot when you need to pivot. I've seen PMs that have gone the technical track, like back into like engineering, that side of it. Some that just said, I love this, I just want to do this. I just want to be forever as a PM. And so some of them went into consulting, and they're just a contract PM for hire, hired gun, never take the PM, a permanent role. They just want to do that because they've got the ADHD like me. They love the variety, and they don't want to stay into operations roles, continue doing that same thing. But if you have that plan, not that you'll stick with the plan, but to have a plan, I always refer to it as like, this is the system of record. This is what it is. This is the plan today. New inputs, stuff changes, whatever. Modify the plan, but here's the plan of record. So I have the plan. You're going to have an increased career resilience. You'll be more adaptable when other opportunities. You'll be better able to know and look at a job description and say, got the skills. I'm weak in this area. Here's my experience. Like, we can tell stories because Sharon and I have thought through this. We have those experiences. So I can, any one of these topics, which will become, hundreds of topics as we go through this series over the next couple of years. And I've got stories around those things, experiences around those things. And then if your path is leadership, I mean, honestly, you're going to be able to demonstrate your earning potential, the leadership potential there. And people will see that. You'll have more, call it gravitas around that role, but your confidence level in the things that you do will definitely go up.
Well, and you're and like we said earlier in this segment, you're building those fundamental skills that you will need as a leader. It's not the same as being a leader, but those project tracking and financial management and planning and organizing and scheduling and communication and all those different skill sets become fundamental to all kinds of opportunities in different roles. And it's really just a matter of taking that and saying, okay, which role would I like to go after? And I totally agree. I mean, you get a better opportunity in terms of your career, but also you have way bigger opportunities in terms of how much you earn, how you're going to influence things, all over the place. And it gives you more control. And I believe that the more control we have in our lives, the more confidence we have in our lives, which means that it just kind of keeps it's a positive cycle up, right? More control, more confidence, more earn, more confidence, more control, more earn. And you just kind of keep going up as those opportunities come along.
Yeah. Most of the PM skills are highly transferable. But again, yes, you have to translate that. I look at a lot of the roles. I mean, these are things, it doesn't matter what industry. If I can find a smart project manager, somebody that's gone and they've been down in the weeds, owning these things, driving them, I know I can transplant them into leadership roles, often operations roles, very entrepreneurial roles. Specialize for something and say, hey, we don't even know what this is yet. We need you to go in and organize it, figure it out. That's what I got good at and had to do at several companies. Was I had they realized that Christian was really good at, and the relationship side of that, of taking teams, merging them together, cleaning up the mess, cutting out the fat. And I don't like to refer to people as fat in that regard. Like, that part sucked flat out. I hate that, having to cut people and organize, but what's right for the business, you have to got to be clinical about this.
There's an element of pruning that has to happen no matter what role you're in. And it's just one of the ones that's a little bit harder to handle.
Right. But have I guess to summarize, have a framework, have a structured approach to your career growth. Beyond, maybe it's within the PM role or beyond that, That's how you're going to avoid stagnation. If you've got the plan, you understand how the stuff that I'm doing today, which can be incredibly boring and monotonous and repetitive and all those things, but what skills are you developing? What are you doing towards your long-term vision of where you want to be? That will help you get through those times where you struggle.
Yeah, well said.
All right. Well, I think that's it, Sharon. I think we went a bit longer than usual on this, but I know it's a great topic. And again, if you've not done it already, head out to Project Failure Files, go sign up for the newsletter. If you've got questions, you can contact us through that as well. But I know that I've also been bad today. I've not put, you can follow us out on social media. There's the banners showing up. See, we've been so engaged in this, I wasn't clicking on the buttons on the side. Of course, you can find all of the past episodes. If you're not already following, please subscribe out on YouTube. You can on my page off of Buckley Planet. I know Sharon goes and she's linked to those, and so you can find them on wherever you find our profiles. You'll find links back to this, and then sign up on Project Failure Files. And yeah, it's we'll be back next Monday, as we are every Monday for the rest of our lives. At what time are we doing these things? Is it 9 a.m. Pacific? It's like
I think 9 Pacific, noon Eastern.
Yeah, I don't know if it wasn't. I live by the calendar, so the calendar tells me where I need to be.
If it dings, I
try to
go.
be there. Yeah. So anyway, but thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you next time.
Next time, bye.